Good evening. I said that after that 21-day curse that I was going to do a follow-on to not necessarily sway either side, and you're seeing the opening of that tonight. There are some specific things that I want to accomplish, and I'm doing this across all sides, not just one. So each one of these is going to get like 2 candles for the work, because I expect it done on both sides, if you will. And nobody's requested 3, so that seems to be suitable. There are a couple things I want to accomplish with this, and there are 2 things that really stand out. One is I don't want the few to shackle the many, but I also don't want the many to shackle the few. And so that's going to play a role in what I'm doing. This will be in a couple of different parts to keep the video size down. We're going to do quite a few things here, and not all of them involve goetics, right? In fact, I'd argue almost at least a third, if not more, they are not goetics at all. So those will probably be in another part of the video, because it just kind of makes more sense logically. So as you can see here, I've kind of arranged them into groups. I didn't even get through half the deck before I was told, okay, that's enough. So this is really just the opening salvo, and specific actions will have to come when things kind of play out, because I'm not interested in trying to say who or what, right? My opinion is just my opinion, and just as I don't want the few shackled by the many or the many by the few, people shouldn't be shackled necessarily by me either, right? So, and that may sound arrogant, but it's really not. It's a philosophical thing, right? I'm not going to pretend to think that I can do something like that, right? And even if I could, it would be inappropriate in my mind to do that. So we have 3 distinct groups going on here, and some of these are going to work on ideas, poisoning ideas, basically. Not necessarily in a way that'll then poison everybody else, right? But more like, I'm going to say interference, but they're going to have a hard time coming to fruition, right? So I did get some quotes from some of these entities as I was calling on them, and so we got Baphomet. This is going to be more about the financial aspect with Baphomet, because Baphomet has to do with prosperity, finance, health, and so we're going to kind of invert that a little bit and work on the financial aspect, because that's really where the things are done, right? And that'll be on the group level. It won't be on largely anything much larger than that, right? So, and then mismanaged health, and why, but not with regards to dealing with, say, foreign leaders. So mismanaged health, stress will do that anyhow, and I don't mean, it's not a curse, right? But the desire is to reduce energy so that maybe some logic can come with emotion regardless of side, because that seems to be sorely lacking. So that's what Baphomet is for, and I've not used Baphomet in that capacity necessarily, so that's actually pretty interesting to me. And Baphomet is more for the resources and resourcing and how those come about. So I've used this in war zones before, and I've personally have seen it in my own war zone, where resource mismanagement can cause a lot of problems. And so we're not looking for death or destruction here, but you got to remember the two actions that are most important and the reason this is happening, so that the few can't be shackled by the many, and the many cannot shackle the few. Right? All of this is being funneled into that point of view, which it seems pretty noble to me. And now how that goes about, I'm not sure, but resourcing and similar is what Bathen wants to do with this, and of course I will be more than happy to do that. I've had a lot of good work with him in the past. So with Salos, we're actually not going to use causing the love. We're not going to use the love and similar. We're actually going to use a little bit of the opposite, not completely, because we don't necessarily want complete discord. What we do want, though, is maybe compromise, and so that's really kind of what we're looking for here. Remember the two actions, right? And so I'll be looking for Salos to help with that. And it's also so that they start to seem pretty similar. I want them to seem pretty similar. To see some of the similarities rather than some of the differences, because the differences are going to get hammered home all over the place, but the similarities are not. And so I want those kind of brought up a little bit, because they are there. And yep. So Person here, I just worked with Person in the 76-week Oasia, and here what he has offered to help me with was he wants to make the opposition blind to each other. So I'm not entirely sure how that's going to go, but it would mean that they potentially, and there are so many other groups that it may not be as effective as I would like, but it still could be. So that's his goal, is that he's going to go show about how to make things seem very disconnected, so they don't really seem like they're talking about each other. And when you put that with seeing with the similarities, it can make for some interesting effects, because there are some similarities, and those need to be highlighted, I think, which is not a negative or a positive action per se against either side, which is why I'm willing to do it. Moloch. Moloch's exact words were, "Set me on both." So, and that was my original intent, but he explicitly said, "Set me on both." Now I do know that there is contention with whether Moloch is part of Baal or not, whether Moloch's even a spirit, or if it's the name of the ritual itself. And I would contend that it doesn't matter in some ways, because he's more than capable of doing what I'm asking for here. And what he means by this, though, is that he means set his negative aspects on there, but not necessarily like the sacrifice of, X, Y, and Z in the literal sense. So, since we know that they wanted to paint Moloch as being everything about carnality, demon worship, and unholy sacrifice, and all the sorts of those things, that's pretty much what he's saying. Set me on them, but not necessarily to sacrifice their children, right? Children could have a lot of context here, and here we're probably looking at like child organizations, child groups. I don't know. I really don't. I don't know, and he's not saying anything, and I am more than willing to set him loose to do what he does, because I've gotten a lot of benefits from him. I've gotten a lot of protection from him in the past, and I have every reason to suspect that if it were the opposite of that, then I would be more than pleased. So I'm literally just going to take him at his word and let him do what he does. I'm good with that. So it's going to be interesting, I think, if I can pick the threads out. There might be, sometimes these threads are like really, really minute, and I might be distracted, so I may not. But here we have Naberius, and what he said exactly to me was, "I will take ability from both." So now, when I say said exactly to me, all these are, of course, translated by our minds. He didn't whisper it in my ear, literally, right? And so, since we know he does things with positions and power and gaining dignitaries and generally climbing up the ladder, it could be the opposite too. He's going to try to level that playing field a little bit, which, I mean, this whole thing's being about restoring some sort of balance, right? So that's what we're going to do, and I'm thankful for him coming to do that. And then here with Gushin is largely going to be involved with the fan bases, right? Dealing with them and trying to level set some of those, because some of those are just flat out despicable. And if I find some of those, then I'm going to curse the shit out of them, quite frankly. And I don't particularly care which side it's on. I will try to make it even, though, because I do believe in that. And people just get abhorrent. It's not necessary. So Gushin's going to work on the fan groups. So if you look at all of this here, we're looking at trying to make them more even. Probably not more honest, because they're all liars anyhow. But at least maybe some of the more of the truth to come out, and maybe some more of the lies to exposed. Working on efficiency at both the group level and the fan bases. So I think this is a pretty good lineup. Now, this isn't it. So there are some other entities that are going to be involved here, and there's only one that I really have. I don't have cards for the others, but well, I do have a card for one. I just haven't pulled it out. But this is my idol for Tiamat, and Tiamat's job is to hold people and organizations accountable. So why would that work? How would that work? Because if you remember some of the stories about Tiamat and the creation of the world, yes, of course, she supposedly is dead and all that, even though you can call on her, so she really isn't. She does have quite a few entities at her disposal, and a lot of those can be destructive. They're certainly chaotic. And so that's kind of, that mix is what's going to be going on here. But this, I think, is mostly, I'll say fan base, right? She's here more for the fan base. We don't want any more nonsense where people try to overthrow the many because of the views of a few. So Tiamat's going to be working for that, and this is a stone I have that I feed when I want to call some of her entities that may or not be around this neighborhood to head off trouble. And then I will be working also with Belial and Abaddon. Belial and Abaddon are both for basically enforcing the rule of law and helping see that it gets done. Are there obstacles to the rule of law? Then those need to be broken. Is the rule of law working? Is it functionally working? Then it needs to proceed forth, and any obstacles to that need to be destroyed. So as you can see, Belial, Abaddon, and Tiamat are more for not far from now, and perhaps day of and afterwards effects. And I will also be calling on Helios to help shine a very strong light on the entire situation. So there we go. We have our lineup, and I think 15 minutes here. I don't know if this video is going to upload, but we're going to go ahead and try it. So let's call it here, and I'll start doing the candles and stuff in the next one. You've seen that sort of thing before, so really this is kind of the importance here is showing the lineup and why I'm doing it and how it's being used. So if you want to do something similar on your own, then you at least have something that you can look to and adapt to your needs. So there you go. All right, welcome back to part 2. First, This is my newest toy. It's an incense brick heater, and that kind of became apparent when I was doing the 21-day course with Xia Gaoming, that I have these incense bricks. I thought there must be a better way than having to use an incense coal, which I have to vent this area out of, or I suffer. So this is the result. It's nice, it's cool. Got it off Amazon. It's hot as hell. So here I've got some fresh Nag Chump and Dragon's Blood. I know they're getting burnt, and I brought that up. I'm like, these aren't getting burnt. So I was just basically told to. They will still get evaporated over time. So there we go. We put one of these on here, and these are for these entities working on my behalf, and those that they invite to enjoy, because they are probably also working on my behalf somewhere. So there we go. So how is this going to work? These are mostly going to be black candles. I did see, because I was like, hey, do I just need black candles, or what color candles I need? And so I saw red candles in my head, and blue, but I don't know who. It's bathroom. Okay. So even though I see them, it doesn't necessarily mean I know who requested it, right? Okay. That's a typical color for him. So, all right, most of the rest of you is going to be black. I know people place a lot of faith in correspondences, but I don't. Red, okay. Sometimes I'll have a personal preference, but that's all it is. And my reasoning for that is, if I can get the same result without paying attention to any of that, then it doesn't sound like it was necessary, then was it? Doesn't mean it's not necessary for somebody else. But I think the goal, at least in my opinion, in my practice, I demonstrated, is to get away from the crutches. Doesn't mean you don't like things. Certain things maybe affect you a certain way, but need is what we're getting away from. All right, give me a minute. Yeah, I was hoping I had some more of these ones that actually fit chime candles, but I just have these large ones that are made by, I guess, idiots or something. I don't know. Because this is what you used to be able to get, and this is what you get now. I mean, it's ridiculous. Chime candles don't even fit in there. So that means we have to waste something like aluminum or paper to get it to fit. Okay. All right, and this will get us started. We'll have our other group going here in a bit. Let me grab some oil. Okay. All right. If you've seen any of these videos in the past, you kind of know the drill. I'm going to charge these candles, I'll bleed on them, This is the oil that I'm largely going to be using. It's Ave Satanas oil from Belladonna Botanicals, because it is a it's a pretty good general use oil for goetics, and most of them don't particularly care. So if they don't want something else, then that's the way to go. Now, when you start to get to like Abaddon, then that might change a bit. So, okay. And I bought 2 bottles of this for the Kazdaya when I worked for the Kazdaya, and those entries are on the occultmirror.net or .com. Find them there. Well, let me change this out. It's pretty hot here in Hawaii, and don't injure yourself for your target, right? All right. Okay, I think we're good. Sorry, I had a notification there. I wanted to make sure I checked. Okay. Let's get to it. Now, normally I would, I'm pretty much just going to use intuition on what they want, and just like the candle colors, if they choose to show me what type of energy they want and I know how to access that type of energy, then I'm going to go ahead and do that. Otherwise, I'm just going to use a general energy that I can just flood these candles with and call it good, because what I'm asking for, I'm not asking them to move mountains here. But I do realize that this isn't necessarily going to be easy in some cases. So, hail to you, my Lord Boer. Thank you. Ooh. Let's go ahead and move this for you. Hail to you, Lady Baphomet. Hail to you, my Lord Bathan. Hail, my Lord Salos. Hail, my Lord Person. Hail, Moloch. Hail, Lord Malbarius. Hail, my Lord Gushun. All right, now it's time to blood and oil. Let me grab my rag. If you guys are going to do this, I highly recommend you keep a rag that is largely only for wiping off oils, blood, things like that, and then keep another one handy. You might be going through like 4 or 5 different oils in a particular ritual or more, depending, and it's just a good idea. So you can always rinse that out with some dishwater, dish soap, things like that, and then just hang it up to dry, and then that's really all it's used for. But I do recommend washing it out every so often because oiled rags have been known to spontaneously combust before, and just don't be part of that exceptionally minute chance of that happening, right? So there we go. That's my safety speech. You've already seen the other safety speech where I changed this out, so I'm not using a dirty lancet. Generally speaking, here in Hawaii, things get pretty damn hot and humid. So even if it's hotter where you are, the sun is actually super direct here. There's fewer filters on it, so that kind of heats things up pretty significantly, and it's not worth your enemy. It's not worth an infection, right? It's not worth it. Send the infection to them. Don't give it to yourself, right? All right, here we go. So what I'm going to do is I'll probably do 3, and then oil, and then I'll do these 2, and then oil, and then these 3, and oil, and call it good. And that's because I don't want this. I have fans going, and so I don't want this to dry and then flake off, because it's not much of an offering if it's not burnt, right? I mean, intent is a great thing, but I can let them have almost all of it, right? And some will get wiped off onto here, but it's all right. It's all right. Hail Boer. Okay. Now, if I were grouping these by different oils, then I might go that route. But since most of them are all going to use the same oil here, I keep saying most or many or whatever. It's because I'm not entirely sure. I feel like there's somebody wants something else, but I don't know who it is, and I haven't been told that yet. So. And it's so awkward holding my arms up out like this, to not knock some of these candles down or somewhere. There we go. These almost need, I don't remember what candle these are. I can show you. I think they're German Christmas candles. So they're much wider tapered at the base. They might actually be better for, not really. Okay. I was going to say they might actually be better for some of those, but they're still pretty loose. All right, let me go and oil these. All right, this is the spout I'm working with here. I don't particularly care for it, but I could pull it out, but I might make a mess. Touch that wick. It's waxed, so I can, but I don't really want to. There we go. Hey, you can see some of the color coming off in the hands. And that is why I don't put any faith in candle colors, really, because let's just go ahead and wiped it off some. all just bits of oil. That was just a little bit too much. I don't want to. I mean, it probably would have been alright, but that's just not the way I roll. Right. I mean, what's another. After lancing for 21 days there, what's another couple of holes, right? Okay. Just clean this off too. There we go. Yeah, see, this is already starting to flake a little bit, so timing was about right. I was supposed to do the other two blue candles. Sometimes the blues come off too, but it really just depends on the brand. But the black candles are, at least the ones I seem to get, they seem to like to do that. Some of the 10-inch red candles, I find do that too. Just go ahead and do the other two blue candles here. Alright, those are the last two blue ones, so let's just go ahead and oil these two. That might just be the best way to go. Oops, looks like a blood all over that place. Damn it. Not the first or last time that'll happen. I guarantee that. It's already happened several times, but you know, that's where that goes. Oops. Start the next one. Okay. Okay. All the blues are done. Now we'll do the next two reds. And let me wash my hands though, because I'm getting a little odd. Give me a minute. bit better. Let's just change this out to be safe. Good. So why is it all wet? Dope. That one's not going to last very long. Okay, we got Molochs. Probably have to relance for this one. It's just not performing. Ah, shit. There we go. Much better. Okay. Go. It's a little light. Alright, so we really just have these 4 black candles here at the end now. Wipe my hand off. Not bad. Okay. I gotta pick a spot. All these have holes in them. Let's see how this goes. will. Still have several more to do, just not in this set. So I have to do and draw out Belial, Abaddon's, maybe Tiamat, Helios. He may not request that. All right, oil in time, and then all these candles will be ready to burn. Burn! 8 o'clock. Shit. Oh wait, I need to oil, not bleed. So I'll probably have to do the next set tomorrow, frankly. I may have to... I'll have to snub these, I think, tonight. I discussed that in another video. If the entities know that you need to do that, then and you have a working relationship with them, and I've worked with all of these entities, most of them numerous times. It really isn't that big of a deal, but the reasoning why is kind of important. And so, like in my case, with the time I have to get up for my commute, it changes a lot of things, and I have very little leeway tomorrow. So that's the issue. And I didn't think it was this late. These burn about an hour and a half, so there is a fan going. I'll have to turn the fan to the side, or it can skew things. And you could argue that, hey, what does it matter if it's burnt with a fan or accelerated by a fan or not? And that's because usually what that means is that the candle wax kind of goes like this and gets all over this area. And you're like, okay, so what? Well, in my mind, I'm still obligated to burn that. It's just I'm not burning it right away. So I'm asking them to do all the work for a partial payment, that the next time I have enough wax to burn to warrant burning all that stuff, then they get paid the rest of the way. And it usually doesn't sit well with me. So that's why I don't, because otherwise I might as well just light a fire and toss the candles in it. I mean seriously, there's no difference, right? It's not like this is I agreed to burn this for X number of nights to satisfy some other need, right? It's not like that. This is a straight, this is what I'm offering to you, and I've charged it, bled it, oiled it, and that's what it is. So, man, it's probably late. Yeah, 3 minutes. Yeah. All right, here we go. First, we got to fix this candle, because the candle holder people are fools. All right. My lords and arguably lady, thank you for being willing to intervene on this matter on my behalf. I thank you. Please enjoy these candles, my offerings to you. Where's the damn thing at? Looking for my tweezers. Oh, here they are. Some of these wicks are a little close to the side here. Need raised. There. Hey, Ellen, thank you. All right, so this is going to end the second video, and I know this isn't new or earth-shattering to those who've watched my stuff in the past, but it doesn't have to be. What it is genuine, and I would encourage other people to be just as genuine in their own way, and with their own beliefs and the ways they see fit, to influence things as hopefully as balanced, if necessary, than you see fit, because we don't want at least I don't want to see all of us largely under the thumb of a few, or our differing opinions silenced by the many. So there you go. This is my part in it. Have a good night. All right, welcome back. This is part 3, and if you're seeing this on Instagram, then this is going to be, well, it's still part 3, but part 2 ended up being 30 minutes long. And so I will combine all of the parts, because I suspect there will be 4 parts. I have to keep this under 15 minutes, and there's still work to do. Anyway, so part 1 was the strategy and getting the pieces ready. Part 2 is actually putting some of those pieces into play. All of those candles have now been burnt, and the wax remnants collected, so I can burn them, because as I've said before, when I make an offering, I make an offering. So as a reminder, we have 2 overarching themes on this overall working. I would call this a campaign, which would be true. It is a campaign, and that is to reduce extreme actions that shackle the few by the many, and the many by the few. So everything we've done so far has been about balance. If you would like another, maybe more detailed run over of that, then I would talk about video 1 and maybe a little bit about video 2. I don't really have time for it here in video 3, where I need to get these things working too. And it's not that I can't ask for these entities to. It's not that they aren't already working potentially on my goals. I pay very well. I've paid most of these entities, all of them that I can think of. One I've only worked with a couple times, but I've paid them all very well in the past, and I continue to do so. And while we're on that theme, let me go ahead and give the incense. There's some things I had to do in advance, so these candles are already charged. I already knew that these entities were going to. Let me turn this on, so it's largely just not blowing in my face. I already knew these entities would accept, because I sent the call out and they came to me. So that's a pretty good indication, right? And there's some here that you probably have not worked with potentially. So I would let me just give you a rundown. Now, if you didn't watch the first one, not all of them were in there, but if you didn't watch the first one, then we have like Tiamat here, who's represented by this snake here, and this stone, which I feed to basically feed her minions, and it acts as a gateway, and they help patrol my area, if you will. So that's for Lady Tiamat and Lady. So excuse me, the Queen, and she is for largely holding people and organizations accountable. This is a secondary means. You'll find several of these things in here are if people decide to act inappropriately and violate either shackling the few by the many or the many by the few, and I don't care largely which way that goes, then things come into account. So what you're seeing here is largely accountability from these entities, their willingness to hold them accountable, and that is what we're going for. So again, we have Belial here. Make sure you can see that. Sorry, you cannot. It's a good thing I said that. So we have my Lord Belial, and my Lord Belial is here to help enforce the rule of law, not the rule of chaos. The rule of law. He has accepted this and will act accordingly. We also have my Lord Abaddon, who essentially may not recognize. It depends on which one you're used to. There's a sort of sea anchor one that I don't like to use. I prefer this one. My personal preference. I've used the sea anchor one, and I had already worked with Abaddon when I did that. I think the first time I worked with Abaddon was probably 2019. We worked very heavily. If you were to Google my Shadownomicon stuff, you will find a lot of Abaddon and Belial entries in there. Anyways, so my Lord Abaddon is also about holding people and orgs accountable, but more so enforcing the rule of law in breaking obstacles in the way of the rule of law. This is not negotiable to me. And somebody else can call on Abaddon to do the opposite, to break down these barriers, and I don't particularly care. It doesn't affect me. So I've asked them to do that. You can do whatever the hell you want. I really don't care. All right. So here we've got Tiamat, and Tiamat is she's actually in here for a lot of different reasons, but mostly when I want to, I talked about it in the first part, and I probably stated it better there than I'm going to here, but when Tiamat is known for chaos, but she can also redirect chaos to divert it away from things. But chaos can also be something that reduces the efficiencies of things, and that's kind of what we're doing the juxtapose here with my Lady Tiamat. But with her, I asked her to hold people and orgs accountable. So orgs that decide that they are above the law should face a consequence. And Tiamat is more than capable of doing that. You can counter petition all you want. I really don't care. If you've spent long enough in the occult, you will know that both sides are going to call X, Y, and Z, and they will enact X, Y, and Z. You know, if they agree and it falls within, I suppose you could say it falls within the mandate. There are some things outside of that, but that is way outside the scope of this video. So, rule of law is in enforcing that, again, is Belial and Abaddon. Holding people and orgs accountable is Tiamat. But don't think for an instant that Belial and Abaddon will not do the same. So, I said before, we had Helios. You can see it by this crappy little sun I drew. Thankfully, he's a very forgiving sort of person. I've worked with him for quite a while now. And, sorry, I gotta blow that smoke out of there so I'm not inhaling it. Anyway, so yeah, so Helios is there to bring light and light in not just a visibility but also in a guidance sort of way. So that's what I've asked of him, and that's what he is more than willing to provide. Now, what I did not state in these other videos is this. There's my lady Hecate. She came forward today, and so I am adapting this to, of course, accommodate that, because she called me to the occult. I have my own practices, but they were not nothing like this. So she wants to be part of it, and it's going to be a sort of mothering and guidance sort of thing. But anybody that knows Hecate also knows that she will smack you upside the head. So she wants to be a part of it. She's being a little bit she's not being very specific on what she wants, but I am not going to deny her that. I could, but I can feel it's congruent with what I believe should happen, and that is balance, right? So we're going to go with that. So we've talked about all the things you can see here. We have talked about a couple of others. That's because they're over here. We got 10 minutes almost. All right, fine. So we have 3 candles over here that look, lonely and forlorn. But this is my Lord Hypnos here. I've reached out. I don't reach out to Hypnos often. There isn't a lot I would call on him for, but I felt it was appropriate, and I felt that it wasn't coming necessarily from me. So it was a nudge, I think, personally, from somewhere. And there are actually all 3 of these entities here. We've got Hypnos, we've got Epione, which makes appearances in many of my other rituals, usually involving comfort. And then we've got Ashira, the goddess of heaven, mate of Baal. And I've used Ashira a lot for mostly comfort, direction, and mercy. Mercy is one. Epione is the goddess comfort, right? Comfort from, that could be anything. That could be like comfort from emotional pain. That could be comfort from physical pain. Usually the two have a tendency to go together after one or the other has started. So I've worked with Epione a lot, which is why you probably can't see it, but I have this right here, which is a tea, a cement tea I brewed for her. I've used her a lot in war zones, on both sides of whatever war zone that is, because people heard of both sides in wars. It's not a single-sided thing. I've been to war. It's a very brutal place, but I'm not so selfless that I can't understand the suffering of both sides, right? Even my enemies, at least, the mothers. And so even if I don't agree with why they're dying or why they're doing what they're doing, it doesn't necessarily matter with regards to trying to provide some sort of comfort. Oh my God, come on. Let's get in my face. So here you can see I have my lady Ashira, the Queen of Heaven, my lady Epione, the goddess of comfort. But Hypnos is a bit of an outlier. I don't work with Hypnos often. I largely just don't have reason to. But in this context, what he's going to do is he's going to kind of dull some of these harsher emotions. You can't dull them all, of course, but that are inappropriate to the situation with regards to both of the goals, which applies to all sides of the spectrum. So very different for me. And now I have already charged all these candles because I'm operating under limited time tonight. I do have to get up really early tomorrow morning to go for a suicide prevention event, and I have to get up a bit earlier for that than I would like to. So I went ahead and charged all these candles. You can see I haven't blooded any of the sigils. I'm at 12 minutes now, 13 minutes. So I'm going to go ahead and call this video for Instagram. and then I will pick back up to do the blood and scrub, as in I bleed him and then scrub them off my hands. Yeah, so you'll see it. I'll light all these, and then I can finally, after that, I'll have dinner, which I already pulled out of the oven, and it's just waiting. So, there we go. Part 3. Thanks. All right, here we go. I guess this is part 4, because Instagram can't handle big kid videos. So, here we go. We're gonna do the sigils first because that's gonna save some room up here in my space. So let's just go ahead and thank you, Mother Belial. I do realize I missed the eyes on there, but he didn't care. All right, I should say columns instead of eyes, but being gracious. Thank you, Mother Belial. All right. Oh, not coming very fast tonight. I think it's because I used this hand last night, and so it's kind of, I was going to say it's probably primed a bit for platelets and clotting. It's part 1, and part 2 was done yesterday, so I'm coming off a 21-day curse, so all these fingers are used, if you will. Alright, switching hands. Go. There we go. Hail Belial. Now we got my Lord Abaddon. People like to conflate him with Apollo. But I kind of, I was talking with somebody about this the other day. I think most of these conflations, like, oh, one strong feminine divine is kind of equal to another strong feminine divine. I don't do that. I think it's more of a shortcut, and usually it's, you know, you're coming from a place of weakness because it shows them that you're not willing to do the work. When you're conflating to the point where, like, well, I don't need to do X, Y, and Z because, you know, I got to keep the oils. You see, all these have different oils, so I keep the oils with the candle. All right, my lady Tiamat, why the eye? The picture of the eye. That actually comes from, I think, the one work. It might actually come from most of Michael W. Ford's works are just horseshit, quite frankly. If you look at actual scholars, he's largely just pulling a lot of shit out of his ass. So I can't remember if this was a Baal Kadmon or if this was MW Ford, but if this was Michael W. Ford, then it's probably like the one work that he did that was actually worthwhile. And that's because he scraped it from somebody else's translation. So the eye of the serpent here is what I'm using for Tiamat. And I know my opinion on MWF is anathema to many, but so be it. He's long-winded. He's not a scholar. His work does not stand up to scholar scrutiny in the areas even outside the occult with regards to the Sumeria stuff. I can't speak to anything else. I can't. And I'm not going to say that I can or pretend that I can. But there are some good scholarly forums for things like Sumerian Canaanite works that actual scholars get involved with, and their opinion is that it's just a bunch of dog shit. So So his translation for the calling of Tiamat is, I'll use that because it was done by somebody else. If it was done by him, I wouldn't use it. Now, I didn't know that at the time, right? It was like, oh shit, I finally found an MW, F book that actually was worthwhile and not just a pile of garbage of some over-emotional nonsense. But, hail my lord, Helios. And for those that don't know, some of you probably do, but some of you may not, my work with Helios comes from the book, shit, I'm drawing a blank, which is embarrassing. Helios Unbound. I spent, it's a 7-month process, but I was moving at the time, and so I spent 9 months, and I still did the daily work in a holding pattern, even when I was like in hotels and things like that, because burning incense in hotels and candles is kind of a no-go these days, at least in the U.S. East Coast. And so I spent 2 extra months still doing the daily work appropriately for it. So I got a lot out of it. I wouldn't recommend completing it because in the end you're completing an agent that you are creating. You're creating an alter ego of sorts. It's the same thing with it's the paganistic version of the 6, 12, and 18-month version to meet the holy guardian angel. But anybody with half a fucking brain understands that you're creating this item when you do this. It doesn't exist on its own. You are creating it. And in the end, you are creating it to enslave what you are going to do based on morals of a different time and a different person. So keep that in mind, which is why I stopped literally at the end before I was enslaved, because I was smarter now. And I talked about it from the beginning. It was like, oh, this is going to be here's where we create this, here's where we create this. And I was very open and honest about that. And if my Lady Hecate had not asked me to do it, well, asked is kind of a light word, but all the same, she had not suggested, I would never have done it. I'm glad I did it, but that's not the same thing. All right, this is already closing up. Let's go here. Some of these places have been tagged like 4, 5, 6 times in the past less than a week. So, all right, there we go. It seems a little light compared to everybody else. All right, I will do that, my lady. Thank you. Lady Hecate. All right, so all the drawn sigils and symbols are ready. Go ahead and not waste this blood here. Thank you, my lady Tiamat. You can see there's already quite a bit on that. It's all right. That'll power for quite a while, actually. Okay, so we go ahead and burn these so I can get room here to then blood and oil these candles, and then we'll go about their business. Turn this down, turn this down. I literally just don't want to blowing the flame out or scattering ashes. Hail, my Lord Abaddon, and thank you. Hail, my Lord Belial, thank you. Hail, my lady Tiamat. Thank you. Hail, my lord Helios. Hail, my lady Hecate. All right. What are we looking at? 10 minutes. I guess it doesn't matter because this one's going on YouTube. All right, this is Belial's. This is Tiamat's. Abaddon's. Hecate's. Helios. Epione. I already did the tea with her, but she wouldn't mind some Shining Veil oil, and so I will stick her over here. Because neither of them want blood on their candles. It is a request if they want to do it. Lady Ashira, Queen of Heaven, does not want blood. So we'll stick her here. My Lord Hypnos seems indifferent to it, so that's all good. All these are already charged, so let me go ahead and blood on the ones that are willing. We'll oil up all of them. I did talk about having an oil cloth to wipe stuff off with, and I did rinse this out with some dish soap, so I do eat my own dog food, if you will. Alright, we'll see how long this sum lasts. Little bastard. I don't need this on right now. It's super freaking hot here, so there we go. Hail, my lady Tiamat. So if you're wondering, what I'll typically do is I try to do a drop per third, almost on each side, but on the bottom it's not quite the same because down here it's going to collect all of the oil and the blood that drips down. So it doesn't quite need to be that way. Let's keep that in mind, yeah? Alright. Hail, my lord Belial. And Belial actually chose some oil a friend of mine made for a more mercurial element, which seems a bit strange, but if you've experienced the different personalities of Belial, it is a range. So if that's what he wants, fine. There we go. And then we go with my lord Abaddon. Go. Alright, I was just told that's good. I need to start oiling, so I will do that. I was going to do another one, but that's fine. All these oils are different, and I just happen to have them. So I have a tendency to look at that as a couple things. One, they're telling me the intended direction they plan on going and how they plan on handling this. And the other is that this is just what they're asking for because they may not get it elsewhere, which is always valid because that's kind of how I handle my incense, right? I will give them what I will give them, and then I give them the option because they may not get that. Some people just want to look at correspondence tables because they think those actually have value, and not everybody agrees on that. So I will do that. I was asked actually to. That's enough, okay? I was told that was enough, but I've never been asked to oil a anchor stone before, which is what this is for Tiamat. This is an anchor stone. I've had it for years. And so what it typically is it's like a gateway that I have in Etsy for sale. It acts as a place where they can come and there are some restrictions, of course, because there should always be some type of restriction, generally speaking, with super chaotic entities, right? Let's be reasonable. All right, but now I'm left with my Lord Hypnos. Okay. All right. I'm just kind of making sure right now. All right, so these are good. She's good. All right, Shiny Veil Oil for my Lady Epione and my Lord Helios. Helios is actually a really, really interesting entity, and as much as I really did not want to do it, quite frankly, I was very pleased once I started working with him more intently, and it's actually been something really, really worthwhile for me. So I was not willing to create the entity that would then literally limit my abilities, because I was literally, part of the process is you create this entity and then you give it a sort of moral structure that no longer exists. So in the last month, it's all archangels and holy as holies, and I don't necessarily agree with some of those concepts. And so I was told I could stop at the end of the 6 months, which took me like, I think 9.5 months or something like that. It's documented somewhere, but super glad I did it. I will almost always recommend the book Helios Unbound by Nicholas, I think Flamel. Is it Flamel? Helios Unbound is the book name, so forgive me if I'm forgetting the author. It's Nicholas something. It's around here. Okay. It's my time. I gotta eat soon because it has to digest so I can go to bed. Alright, so here we have Psychopomp oil. So we've got, in the Psychopomp oil, we've got my Lord Hypnos here, we've got my Lady Hecate here, and Lady Ashira is kind of just, standing there on her own. Her call. All good. So let's just go ahead and oil stuff up, yeah. Hail, my lady. Hail, my Lord Hypnos. So you wouldn't mind a couple of stripes of that. So there we go. I'm not going to deny her. So here we go. My Lord Hypnos, Ashira, Lady Hecate, Abaddon, Lady Epione, Helios, Belial, and Lady Tiamat. Hail to you. Hail and thank you. Please go forth and help as you have agreed to. And there it is. So now we will let these offerings to them burn out, and in some parts of the occult you would say, so mote it be. Otherwise, other people would say, so it is done. Some of the Chinese would say, run as fast as Ling. in the end, it is done. Juji Rululing.